Hello, and welcome back to the layout. This video is the second video of a three-part series I'm calling Setting the Scene. For anyone new, this series covers aspects of scenery that I'm crafting, and part one was all about ballasting. This video, however, is going to be all about dirt, and it's going to be my first true layer of scenery, and my material of choice I use for dirt is actually sanded tile grout. Apart from real dirt, tile grout is fast, it's easy to work with, and gives a good looking 2-scale representation of dirt. This video will show how I apply tile grout, how I get it to cure to the layout, and how I use an acrylic wash to change its color. Without further ado, let's get started. This is actually non-sanded tile grout. It's a super fine powdered material either way, and all it takes is water to cure and harden. The first of two items I use is this kitchen sifter. Depending on the area to cover, you can find them in bigger sizes. And the second item is this fine mister. The longer trigger helps keep the mist going. Also, some acrylics for the wash. I will show this part later in the video. To keep the backdrop clean, I taped on wax paper to protect it. I have a playing cards width gap between the foam to slip in the bottom of the wax paper. This little spot was just a test to make sure that this process worked, but the actual first step is to pre-wet the surface. This lets the tile grout stick to the surface better when it's sifted out. The next step is to simply sift out the tile grout. I make sure to apply it thick so it'll dry securely to the surface. It also tends to ball up in small pieces, but that will get sanded away later. Next up is soaking the tile grout. Since it's originally meant to be mixed with water, spraying enough water on it will cure it on the layout. This style of mister is great for spraying large areas. You can keep the mist going almost non-stop, and it actually creates quite a bit of mist. Once all the tile grout is soaked, I typically will wait about 24 hours until it's dry enough to work with again. These are the pieces that ball and clump up. They dry like this and are easily sanded loose. But for now, we wait for it to dry. After waiting about a day, I begin sanding the tile grout. It easily breaks loose any of those clumps and any other pieces that did not stick to the dried grout. Next, I use a vacuum to clean up the mess. Unfortunately, this can break loose bigger chunks. The grout in this area must have been sifted too thin. I'll go back and patch these areas with this sift and spray method. This is the downside using tile grout as dirt. It has to be applied thick and soaked thoroughly, otherwise it becomes too brittle to work with. I continue to sand and vacuum up the excess. Off camera, I patched up any areas where the grout didn't stick. The final step is the acrylic wash. I use various types of cheap earth tone colors. Burnt sienna adds a red hue, making the end result look close to the soil along the Orin subdivision. When adding the colors to the water, I'm not worried about exact ratios, just as long as the color is in the ballpark I need. It will also dry way more muted than it looks here. Upon second thought, after it was mixed, I decided to add in a dark brown color because it felt too red. Now that I've made paint soup, it's time to soak the tile grout again. I'm generous with how much of the wash I apply because it ends up drying a lot lighter than you think. It does depend on how much water you mix in, but with my wash, I keep it relatively thin. Additionally, soaking the grout again will make it even stronger once it's finished drying. After the wash is applied, I'll wait another 24 hours before working with it again. My next step is adding static grass, but that will be in the next video. For now, let's take a look at the results. The overall color is certainly darker than what I started with. It pulls slightly red, but mainly various shades of brown. This is the look I was more or less going after. The wash really adds randomness to how the colors blend together, giving a nice representation of dirt. The tile grout gives a good texture that closely resembles dirt, especially for HO scale. Even if the surface looks a little too coarse and out of scale, it's a close match to the landscape in the Powder River Basin. For anyone who doesn't know, this scene is a compressed version of Logan Hill along the Orin subdivision that runs through the Powder River Basin. To touch on the downside of tile grout again, steep slopes are where it becomes difficult to work with. The grout won't hold well, so it ends up drying thin and becoming brittle. This slope is about the max the tile grout is able to hold. Any steeper or more mountainous scene, grout is not the material for the job. Used as dirt, tile grout is best for large areas that are anywhere from flat to rolling hills. Sifted relatively thick and soaked with water, it'll dry hard enough to be used as the base for all of your scenery. To close out this video, anyone who wants a cost-effective and a way to mass-produce dirt, tile grout is the way to go. It may not be applicable for all scenery scenarios, but using these methods, it'll give you a good base for your scenery. The next and final video of this series will cover static grass. And even though the static grass is going to cover all of the dirt, its color and texture will show through, making for realistic looking scenery. I am excited to share my next and final video of this series, so stay tuned. I hope to see you there. Take care.